All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's call of the Crypto Mondays Collective. We've got a great guest today, a friend of mine, Pete Townsend, Managing Director of Techstars Web3. Welcome, Pete.
Thank you very much, Lou. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for having me back again.
Yeah, exactly. No, very happy to have you back in. You're dialing in from Dublin.
That's right. Yep, I live here. I lived here for the last 20 years, been away from the US 25 altogether, but originally from outside of Boston.
It's changed.
Thanks. I've been watching. I've been watching. Yes, I know. I
Um,
know.
okay, we're going to go through just a few minutes of Crypto Mondays business, and then I will turn the floor over to you. Looking forward to it.
Sounds good.
Um, so, Happy Crypto Mondays to everyone here in New York. We'll be going to Crypto Mondays NYC. It's the second Monday of the month, which is decentralized AI. We're actually just going to talk about the Decentralized AI Agent Alliance tonight at PubKey, which is the Bitcoin bar. So it should be a fun night for anybody who's in New York City. Anybody else going to a Crypto Monday elsewhere? It's on the call. Going once, twice. Okay. Hopefully see a few of you in New York. New Crypto Mondays launching today. We had our first Crypto Mondays today in India. Crypto Monday, New Delhi. So they had about 50 folks over, and they had a nice event. And hopefully that's just the start of what's going to be a massive country, hearing amazing things. I have actually never been, but to India, but looking forward to going to Crypto Mondays New Delhi at some point. And then next week, we've got Crypto Mondays, um, Naples kicking off. Josh Lang is going to be doing that one. I'm not quite sure what Josh is doing in the US, but good to have him here. And then the following week is the launch of yet our fourth Crypto Mondays in Portugal, Crypto Mondays Algarve. So we've got one in Madeira, one in Lisbon, and last week I went to my 37th, 2 weeks ago, went to my 37th Crypto Monday in Porto, which was really cool. Um, and then also on the 28th is going to be, I'll be at Crypto Mondays Dubai. So we've got a great event going on there. I'll be doing a fireside chat with Ilya, the co-founder of Near. And he was also kind of one of the main researchers that developed transformers at Google. And so he's also a major guy in AI. So yeah, he arguably is the smartest guy in the world at the intersection of crypto and AI. So I'm looking forward to that. And we're 2 weeks away, haven't started any marketing yet. And we're already at the one going is me in the 699. So we're already at 700 RSVPs and we're 2 weeks out and hadn't started marketing. So my guess is that is going to be an awesome event in Dubai. Um, and then we'll also gearing up for the first kind of real use at Monday. I'm not sure we'll make it. What we're trying to do is just, the Monday is our community management AI agent. And we're going to focus initially on connecting, I think is one of the cool things we can do. And we'll offer people a chance. Hey, do you want to get connected with the person that AI says, is the best match for you to get connected with at Crypto Mondays? And that'll be something that we'll opt into. And, it's just the start of, experimenting on, what's the additional utility that we can give our members via the AI agent. So exciting times there. The DIA membership, we're now at over 70 members, including the individuals, 68 corporates. So the logo wall, or 60 projects as opposed to individuals. So the project wall keeps growing and growing. And now I'm about to turn it over to Pete Townsend, as he said. This is not his first time here at Crypto Mondays. When we started the accelerator, actually, a cohort number one of the two cohorts. We actually had Pete came and he taught the very first class at our accelerator on how to make the most out of an accelerator, because we really thought who knows more about that in Web3 than Pete, and he crushed it. I had the pleasure of going to the class of 2024 Techstars Web3. They did a demo day in New York, and it was really just a first class event. So impressed by the event itself and all of the presenting companies. And also, Techstars is one of the early founding members of Dia as well. You can see their logo here. So appreciate that. Definitely a member of the Crypto Mondays family. So super happy to have you back. Oh, and last but not least, on Monday, March 10th, Pete launched the start of Techstars Crypto Mondays Ireland. So and they're going to be holding events in both Dublin and so far just in Dublin, but they'll be doing, I think, the next one in Belfast. Is that
Yep,
right?
that's right. Yep.
Yeah.
We're going to be doing one more in Dublin in April, in May, and then June in Belfast.
So awesome. That's very exciting. And with that, I'll turn the floor over to Pete Townsend.
All right. Thank you, Lou. Much appreciated. And I got a few slides to bring you through to tell you a bit about Techstars and walk you through the current cohort and some of the companies and kind of talk about some opportunities to get involved for people. So appreciate that, Lou, and thank you for the very good intro. I will share my screen to pull up these slides here. All right, let's get going. All right, we're good. You see that? Thumbs up.
Got it.
Yeah, cool. All right, so I wanted to tell you a bit more about Techstars Web3 and what we're doing this year. And we are a hybrid program rather than being an in-person program because we respect the fact that Web3 is global and borderless, and that pulling people together into one geographic location for 13 weeks, which is the standard length of a Techstars accelerator program. Pulling together people for that long is kind of it's doesn't recognize the fact that some co-founders may be meeting for the first time when we bring them together for week one of the program, which I'll talk a little bit about. So we're now in week 6 of the program out of 13. This is our 4th time running this. I just wanted to give you a little bit of insight on how we're thinking about this. So Lou showed one of the pictures from last year from our demo day, and here are a few pictures from the last 4 years of running this program. And like I said, I'll give you a bit of an intro on how the program works. I'll give you an update on the 2025 cohort, give you an opportunity to ask a few questions. One of my favorite things to do in Ireland, because we bring people to Ireland just for week 1 of the program. I live here. My investment principal, Hugh McGurr, lives here, and we bring people here because we live here. And we could probably do that anywhere in the world, but the whole idea is to bring people together in a way that where they can build relationships fast. And Ireland is a great place to do that. The picture on the bottom left is everybody in front of the Guinness, one of the old Guinness brewery gates that was right across the street from where we held the accelerator program. And you can see on the left-hand side with the black door, and on the right-hand side, you can see a little bit of that Guinness harp there, which is the old school logos of Guinness. So it was a great first week. And it's something that I really enjoy doing. I get such great energy out of bringing people together for a week. This year, we're only doing 6 companies or projects in the cohort rather than 12. We took a big decision earlier this year to say we're only going to do high conviction bets, only those companies that we truly believe in. And so as we're investing 120K into each one of these companies in return for 6% equity and 2% of the token sale, and token supply. And there is a new Techstars deal coming that was recently announced where we're upping the amount of capital that we're investing and changing the investment vehicle a bit and going up to 220K rather than 120K. But that is for future looking programs coming up in September and beyond. So because we're making, writing those checks that it's high conviction bets only, and we decided just to do 6 this year instead of filling out a cohort of 12 companies, which is so it gives us a lot more focus onto 6 companies rather than doing the full 12 like we had in past years. Okay. So that's me. Thank you again, Lou, for the intro. About Techstars, a little bit just on some details. And as we go along, feel free to put questions up into the chat, or we can we'll have time for questions at the end. The biggest thing about Techstars is that we help founders succeed. And that's always been very much aligned with my ethos of just wanting to help founders and work with them firsthand. And that we do this, it's a Techstars for life deal. All right. And that I am still engaging and talking with founders that we brought through our 2022 program. No bias here. It's just, hey, as long as you need help, we'll be here for you. And we do that as much as possible across all different types of activities. All right, so we have 42 active accelerator programs. Techstars Web3 is one of many, obviously, but we are the only Web3 dedicated program. And some of the more impressive stats that we've had 21 unicorns, so 21 of 1 billion plus valuations now. And that would include some names like Chainalysis, well known in crypto and Web3, Zipline, Data Robot, Alloy, and that after the program, companies have gone on to raise more than 29 billion. Okay, which is a good number, and that is one of the big things that we kind of hold ourselves up against and say, were we able to get them to the point where we got them moving faster, we got them to our ethos of find your product market fit, and the money will follow. Not necessarily product market fit where you're totally in market, but you know what that's going to look like, and that's one of the big things we try to do. Okay. So with our focus on Web3, what do we do? Right? We can talk about our thesis a bit, but we work with entrepreneurs building in Web3 and enabling the next wave of growth in the decentralized internet and tokenized economies. Each year, we look at the market a little bit differently and say, how is it that we want to invest this year? And Hugh McGurr and I, again, investment principal on the program, we looked at this in Q3 and Q3 last year in preparation for opening up our 2025 program sourcing period and said, you know what? We can look at the protocol layer. We can look at the infrastructure layer. We can look at the developer layer. And we can look at AI as an accelerant to all of this, especially in the last couple of years. And we could say, let's look for companies just at those levels. That's our thesis. That's what we believe is going to happen, is that we'll see growth in all three of those areas. We will see AI as an accelerant, and we are seeing that already. But at the end of the day, what we're looking for is excellent founders, right? So while our thesis is broad, that this is the space that we believe to be one of the significantly growing areas of investment opportunities in the world. It's that we're looking for great founders and we want to help them succeed. I mentioned Chainalysis already. Some of the other notable names that we brought through the program would be Arweave, Defense, depending upon the angle that you're coming from, and Nadix. And Defense and Nadix probably being the two more recent ones, obviously. Defense started in France. That's Clarisse Hegesh. She's now in New York City and growing that. And that is crypto custody infrastructure by API, lots of security around MPC. And then Nadix is building a 3D digital twin of the world, basically, and doing that through your smartphone on your dashboard. And they've been pretty impressive with what they've been able to do. That's Alriza Goda, who is the CEO and founder there. All four of them are someone from their business is a mentor on our program. Arweave, Sam Williams, Defense, Clarisse Hegesh, Nadix, Alriza, Chainalysis, as well, that we have on board. Okay, so 280 accelerator companies that we've invested in Web3, 1.3 billion total lifetime raise post program, and then 10 billion in cumulative market cap. Okay, so just very briefly, whoops, sorry, shut that off for a second. Okay, we're back. Where we've invested in total over the last 4 years is very much on the infrastructure side. We know we have a long way to go in this space in Web3. We need Web3 applications to be more usable. We need the more secure. We need them to be more accessible. Okay, and so we're always looking for founders who are hell bent on making Web3 just as accessible, just as secure, and just as usable by consumers and by institutions and businesses as their Web2 cousins are today. Okay, and that is one of the hardest nuts to crack in this space. It's getting that combination of usability, security, and accessibility all at a very, very high level. Okay, so we're always looking for these kinds of propositions. We believe in the financialization of everything, and that everything is moving on chain, and that especially in the financial markets, and seeing that was my impetus to get into this space to begin with, and that it's not go out and tokenize everything, it's go out and tokenize what should be tokenized, and that but knowing that we're going to be seeing things come out of left field that we don't expect, and that we'll need the ability to support those ideas as well. Okay. We also believe in the consumerization and driving mass adoption of blockchain to the point where we need to tell founders to stop putting blockchain in your deck if you're a consumer app, right? You just need to say what it is that you're delivering and what your value proposition is. And that we've seen blockchain, rear its head in some totally unexpected places, and where we see it creeping up too much in terms of the founders, delivery of what their value proposition is. Like I said, we help to push them right back down, and to focus on the true value proposition of what they're delivering. Okay, and it's not a hide from it. It's that it's just you wouldn't be talking about whether you're using AWS or Google Cloud in your consumer marketing materials. You're not, and you're not talking about it, your value proposition. Blockchain is quite there yet as being as much of utility as some of the web services providers and the cloud service providers, but it's going in that direction. Finally, ownership and attribution in an AI-driven world, particularly in an AI-driven world, is that can we move the ownership of the network out to the fringes rather than have it be in the middle of those networks? Okay. So a brief look at the program, where we are and what we're doing right now. We did our week 1 in Dublin. We had our setting direction with all of us, with the accelerator investment team. That's myself and Hugh McGurr and a few people that we bring in each year. We have our workshops, particularly around elevator pitches, around ideal customer profile, customer discovery, and no matter where people are, just putting them into this pressure cooker a bit and saying, we need to be sure on the types of customers, users, distribution channels, partners that you're pursuing, and that getting that in place to focus people's efforts to get them moving faster. That's the whole idea. We also did our Crypto Mondays Ireland kickoff, as Lou mentioned. Thank you for mentioning that, at a pub called Toners, which is a wonderful place to do that. And we did our second one back last Monday in partnership with Solana Super Team Ireland, who had just launched over here, led by the infamous Alejandro Gutierrez, who's a good friend of mine. So we are, but when we had week 1 in Dublin, we had all the founders get up and do the elevator pitch that they learned or that they constructed and modified what their former elevator pitch was, during their elevator pitch session in week 1. As we moved out of week 1 into week 2, we then get into our mentor engagement, and the mentor engagement is probably the single biggest lift in any Techstars program. We had about 90 mentors this year, and 6 startups, and so the 6 startups don't meet all 90 mentors, but they probably meet about 60, 65 of them, because we do some specific matching up based upon founders' expertise, what the founders are doing, what the mentor's expertise is. But it's 2 weeks of, we call it mentor magic. We used to call it mentor madness, and it was pure madness. But we tried to push the connotation of it to be more magical than maddening. But it's still maddening because it's a lot of calls to do. And we just finished doing all the matchups. And so each team gets 3 lead mentors. And we got some fantastic people who are involved and engaged and were really energetic and said, listen, this is the one startup that I want to mentor. That's what the mentors have to say. It's out of the 6 they met. And so get some pretty good energy going between them. So that was pretty much month 1. Month 2, we're now in, where are we? Week 6, right? So we're part of the way through month 2. That's April. We're meeting up next week in London. The whole idea is to bring people together because Zoom fatigue is a real thing. And we want to get everybody back together, help them, refocus their efforts, do some more workshops, particularly around kicking off the fundraising curriculum that we do. I kicked that off last week. Do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 sessions on fundraising. And that's just our standard core curriculum. We augment that with some guest speakers as well who come on and share a few tips and tricks. And we're really pushing for where the go-to-market strategies are and helping them to build traction and trying to find those strong signals of what their product market fit will look like. The final month, May, it's all about fundraising and the fundraising prep, with lots of pitch practice, lots of building of their investor pipelines, who are the 100 investors. And we teach the investor pipeline method that Jenny Fielding used to teach when she ran Techstars in New York City, and that where you're reaching out to 100 investors with warm intros, not cold, but warm. There is a place for cold, and there's still ways to do that. But we have people working on the warm intros. And we've got some people on board to help them build their investor pipelines of up to 100 investors per participant in the program. The final week of the program we're doing is demo day. We are back in New York City again this year. It's during New York Tech Week. What we found is that instead of trying to bring investors to a certain location of the world where Techstars may be, just go to where they are. We had a bunch, we had a great turnout last year for New York Tech Week. We're doing it again this year. It will be a June 5th event, and there'll be more details that I can share on that. We're also going to be doing an investor founder meeting session, and that will take place, I think, on June 2nd. Sorry, June 3rd. But again, more to share on that. So how to get involved? I'm going to go through the cohort briefly in a second, but how to get involved is that if you want to take an early look at the companies, if you are an investor or you're a connector, or you just have a natural curiosity about what these folks are building, and you want to know more and learn more because you think you just want to learn about them. 2, you think you might have some helpful connectivity for them, or 3, if you're looking at this from an investor perspective, that you may want to kick the tires, right? So you can take an early look before they start opening their rounds. They're all going to be opening their round, not all of them, but I'd say 5 of the 6 at least will be opening, if not all 6 will be opening the rounds sometime during the month of May, is kind of the schedule that we're going for with them, so that they will want to get them well progressed with their rounds before the summer slowdown. Okay. That's the first way to get involved. The second way, hey, just come to our events in New York City. And again, I'll share the details of that. Or third, as this is Techstars for life, that every company that we've invested in through this program, we are still helping and we're still engaging with. So, we can always facilitate some connectivity with them as well. Okay. So just to go briefly through the companies that we have this time around. So we have Zeroxbridge. Their theme is Bitcoin liquidity. They are led by Satyam Agrawal, and he's had a good background behind him with Polymath, with Maples Finance, and they are out of India, and they're a non-custodial Bitcoin bridge, and that they are enabling with their first product users to mint what they're calling EC on Ethereum without relinquishing control of their original assets. It gets locked up through EigenLayer, and there's a number of kind of feedback sessions that the founder has had on kind of trying to simplify this even more for those users who are not crypto native. And so he's looking at a couple different solutions there on how to do just that. They are right now moving into testnet stage. They're probably the most advanced in terms of fundraising. They've already secured some soft commits in their pre-seed round, which started opening before they even started with us in the program back in March. So they are well on their way. Next up is Autonom, and this one harks back to my history in TradFi, going back into the late 90s and first probably 10, 12 years of the millennium. So Autonom are an oracle specifically being built for real world assets on chain. And they're starting with perpdexes and particularly trying to solve some of the more crinkly problems around things like corporate actions that can, if you don't get that price adjustment right, you can cause liquidations. And so they're starting there as kind of their market niche to drive into, but recognizing that the Oracle market can be a very competitive space. And I think it's the approach that our view was that with each kind of cycle that happens here, and with each passing year, there's some new and newer tools that allow you to get even more into fully decentralized mode, where these price adjustments and the control that the receivers of the prices from oracles have is basically compacted down to quite a very small level, right? And that's what Autonom are doing. They're kind of back and forth between the USA and Europe right now, led by Mason Burkhalter. Him and the CPO, Brian Leonard, Chief Product Officer, built they built API 3, was was their last project that they worked on together. Okay. Dabble is hedging for crypto lenders, and they're out of New York. That's Mike McGuire. He is a TradFi background, but then spent some time with Provenance. And him and his co-founder Jay Chow built Pangea, or part of the founding team of Pangea, who built a hedging tool like this for Web2. And then they saw a big opportunity in Web3. And they are moving fast, lots of demand, lots of voices coming from the market saying, please get this live. They've got a great partnership in place with Membrane Labs, which they think will be driving some, or which we expect will be driving some good volume towards them. Again, they're out in New York. Neuro Systems, the Neuro Systems are kind of our decentralization and AI play, in that they're building a platform focused on privacy enhancing technologies that allows data to remain within the walled garden of an enterprise, but still be able to benefit from the things such as decentralized compute, and be able to move the compute all over the world without actually ever unencrypting the data. Okay, and they're out of Palo Alto in the Bay Area, and that's Rami Akila, who has had, I think, 3 or 4 blockchain projects under his belt in the past. Very technical team, and excited to have them on board as our first kind of, again, the decentralized AI play here, which I thought was quite interesting. Last couple of ones, Nodes Garden, they are a multi-chain node management platform. So very easy and simple setup of nodes that the platform supports for testnet. So those going into testnet who are moving towards airdrop territory, and could be gathering thousands of users that all want to set up testnets. That all want to set up nodes on their testnet. Nodes Garden does an excellent job of that. They're already live product in the market, and making money, which is good. And they are out of Thailand and out of Japan as well. Last one. Oh, did my screen freeze or did I skip over one? Okay, they're not in there, but TrustBites are our last one. And TrustBites is building an operational security platform for centralized crypto asset service providers. They are out of Europe, and that's Jeremy Presetio who leads that team. And they've got Carrie and Jonas as well. Carrie's got a great background in machine learning and in AI. And basically, just think about it as any centralized crypto exchange is going to have tons and tons and tons of data that can alert you to things that are both defensive imposter as well as offensive imposter. So defensive would be compliance data, things that you need to look out for on the AML KYC side, on money laundering side, and then on the offensive side would be, hey, how do we take advantage of some opportunities in the market? What's the best split between hot wallet and cold wallet, right? And how are we looking at some market sentiment data to figure things out? And so they were one of our early acceptances into the program back in December. We got them through, and a very strong trio in Jeremy, Carrie, and Jonas, who have been working together on this for probably about 6-7 months now at this stage, if not a bit longer between Jeremy and Jonas. So they are building TrustBites, as I mentioned, and we are, again, expecting big things from everybody. So that's a quick whistle-stop tour of Techstars Web3 and where we're headed, and happy to open it up for any questions.
Okay, well, that was terrific. Both discussion about the Techstars and the Web3 program and of the particular companies. I'll take a couple questions. Raise your hand if you've got a question. And we'll go in the order received. To start, you've spent a lot of time, talking about, you went from, 12 to 6, and you really focused on finding great companies, and you seem to kind of focus on the founders of that. That's really what makes up great companies. When I first became a VC and I talked to a bunch of VCs about major lessons learned, they all said, the most important thing is the founders. And I didn't know what to do with that because, I didn't think I had any particular core competency at, looking at somebody going, you're a founder. So can you talk to me about how you do that and how that's evolved over time?
Yeah. Um, you know, there's all different ways that we do. We varied over the years, Lou. Um, you know, we have done things that, we have a standard process of the types of questions we ask when we're talking to founders. Team first, we really look to try to understand the team. And when you're doing all of this on Zoom and you've got three co-founders together, one of us listens to what the person speaking is saying, and the other one looks at the eyes of those who are not speaking to see if they're rolling their eyes, to see if they're looking away, right? And there's all
You
these
probably
types
don't
of,
invest in too many husband-wife teams.
yeah, exactly. So there's all these tells that you get and out of just watching people on Zoom on screen. And you can do that in an in-person meeting as well. It's a little bit different, but you get this nice little portal into someone's kind of mannerism. So it's the first thing I've said, but it's probably not critically the most important. But we do tons of research into founder backgrounds, and where they came from and what their successes had been in the past. And that is something that we just starting with a LinkedIn profile, for example. We also do deep dives where we get into individual conversations of, probably up to an hour, where we just go through, I don't know, 25 to 30 questions that's looking at, hey, you convince me that this is a venture scalable business. Um, and that there's going to be some longevity here. And, so we really, the psychological analysis don't do much of, but can do that as almost a side effect of the level of questioning that we go to. So what we also do is we leverage our mentor community quite a bit, and we have
Ah,
our mentors speak with the founders in before we decide to invest, and they give us their view and they give us their thoughts on them as well. So someone could go from anywhere from 6 to 10 hours worth of calls with us before they would get into before we feel comfortable extending an offer for them for the program.
wow, that sounds quite intense. I was surprised you didn't mention tokenization.
In what regard?
Just in regards to the fundraising,
In regards to fundraising.
the
So
fundraising, yeah, for the companies, that are graduating, like, on our accelerator, we moved to, we only want to work with companies that we think can be in a position to tokenize by the time they graduate.
yes. So we look we look at that through a couple of different lenses. Um, with the stage that everybody is at, we think it's too early to make a decision on whether the enterprise value of what they're building will accrue to an equity or accrue to a token. And so we say you need to kind of be able to do both. And so when people are fundraising after the program, or if they open rounds during the program, we advise them to raise with a safe plus a token warrant, just to give that optionality. And so for those like Autonom and Zeroxbridge, Zeroxbridge being the Bitcoin liquidity bridge, the non-custodial Bitcoin liquidity bridge, and Autonom being the Oracle, the RWA Oracle, both of them are clearly going to become protocols that where the enterprise value of what they're building will accrue to a token. And so we've got the two of them on, hey, when they're picking their mentors, they're going to pick some mentors that have some expertise in building and launching tokens, right? And to be able to give them that. And then we have some specific supports for them with regards to their token economics. And then for those where they may end up a centralized company, they're not going to have a token. And we say, listen, some might, and there might be an element of having a token that could be helpful to their business. But for most of them, we say, if you don't need it, don't launch it.
Uh,
Particularly if you're going to become a centralized business. In that, but we have one like, that as things look right now, they probably won't need a token, but we could envisage a future where instead of building software that they license to people on a SaaS basis, they could become a protocol, right? And if they do become a protocol, they are going to need a token. So hence, when you're fundraising, do it with a safe with token warrants to give you and your investors that optionality. A token may never come, but at least the optionality is there in the docs to be able to do that.
Yeah, okay. That all makes sense. I'm just looking, we've got a question from Albert. I'm trying to read. How do you connect? Albert runs the Bitcoin AI startup lab. It's kind of a accelerator.
Yep. The best way is to get me on Telegram. I will put that up there, just at Pete Townsend. That's the easiest way to get me. So we have, oh, I see Albert there. Okay.
Yeah.
BTC Startup Lab produces Bitcoin AI teams and startups that are ready to go to an accelerator. Oh yeah, no, absolutely. So
Yeah,
Albert could be a great source
exactly. No, he's
startups for us going
yeah,
forward.
knee deep in the Bitcoin ecosystem. He's been doing it a little while now.
Yep.
I've taught at a couple of his in his cohorts. It's wild, yeah, because they have like 50 companies in the cohort.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Let's see, a question from Praveen. So
Yeah, Praveen, you want to
when it,
ask it? You want to open up?
Oh yeah. Hey, yeah, hey Pete. Thanks for the presentation. Yeah, I think I've heard all of companies going through multiple accelerators, and also during your presentation is really great, by the way. You talked about a 6% flat valuation for 125. Like, how does that relate to the stage of the company, the valuation, et cetera? And how does a company get through multiple accelerators if is the 6% like somehow cumulative? I can't imagine 6% every few months or going through another accelerator.
yeah, no, I mean, we would, when someone comes in to do a Techstars program, we say, listen, you should be able to do this accelerator program and then bounce from there, and you know move forward at a much faster pace. There are some specialized accelerators that, we have relationships with, and where those accelerators would kind of hand off to us, or we may hand off to them. We've seen that happen as well. But generally, it's what we advise is, listen, just do one, right? And one that you think is the best suited for you. The Techstars deal is that, okay, you when we say when we offer to invest in a company and or a project, that the 6% equity is just the flat standard deal for all Techstars, for all incoming Techstars companies and projects. And that is just, it's a one-off. So we wouldn't take that from them multiple times. And so that 6% is, it's common shares and it's pre-money, so that it ends up just being more or less a placeholder until they do raise a priced round. When they do raise a priced round of, say, 250K or more, that's where Techstars goes onto the cap table. But because it is pre-money and it is common, that we dilute alongside the founders. And so Techstars generally ends up at 5% or less after the first price round that they would do. Does that
So,
answer your
so
question, Praveen?
oh yeah. So if the price round doesn't get priced for a couple years, is it 6% at the time that they went through the accelerator, or 6% at the time it's priced?
Six, it's 6% at the time it's priced, but it's immediately kind of retroactively diluted, or retrospectively diluted. And so um, the 6% now, it's almost like an old school safe. Um, and
Yeah.
we call it a common equity agreement, and that it ends up being, like I said, almost a placeholder. The way to think about it is that if, the co-founders have 94% of the equity, Techstars would have 6% of that. But because it's common shares and there has not yet been a price round, that equity hasn't really been allocated out yet. So when there is that price round and you get a venture fund in holding, say the investors come in at what, 20%, and then the co-founders would go down to what, doing some quick math here, probably like 75%, Techstars would be at 5%. And the new investors would be at 20%. So we dilute down alongside the founders, and that's how it works.
Yeah, that seems fair. Thank you for the presentation again.
Sure, my pleasure, Praveen. Thank you for the question.
Thanks, Praveen. If anybody else has any questions, raise a hand, but I've got a bunch. First, going back to the fundraising side, can you talk a little bit about how you've seen kind of the venture market evolve? It's has definitely seemed to change and still seems pretty slow.
It has changed. I mean, going back to 22 when we first started the program, I mean, we landed in the middle of, bear market with after Luna, and that wasn't fun. But those had, there are a number that have those should be raising are raising, and that they're doing well. But what we've seen in terms of the trends is that, you know, we saw back then, and we still see to this day, a number of VCs that just want tokens, and that's all that they want.
Exactly. Yeah.
And this isn't just the VC's preference. This is the LPs behind the VC's fund, because they're seeing that, well, I can start getting my money back in 1 to 2 years instead of 3 to 4 to 5. And that, the whole math that you can easily do around, say, 500K safe with token warrants, that say it's 1 for 1, and that for every 500K that is invested, that they get 500K worth of warrants. If the token 10x is on day 1, and the vesting allowance enables that VC to exit 10% of their holding, they basically get their money back on TGE. And then anything that happens on top of that, obviously, is the whole reason you're in venture, for the upside of that anyway. But that math is very real. Now, what a founder needs to do to get their token to 10x, but also have that be sustainable and have that price level off, that's a big, big, big challenge, right? So, we've seen, you've seen some good stories there. We've seen some not so good stories there. But, some of the other things that we've seen going on is kind of the understanding of, okay, do we tokenize or not tokenize, and seeing some VCs that do have an appreciation for that, and seeing the kind of the segmentation of the VC market between those that just want tokens versus those that are kind of, okay, a token could be a cherry on top. And there are those that are perhaps looking at this from, say, a fintech perspective, more traditional fintech VCs that see an opportunity in big, huge trends like stablecoins and real world asset tokenization and those types of things, that are saying, I need to get into this space. But for them, a token can be a complete deterrent, and that they don't want to touch it. So that's one of the big things that we teach in Techstars, is that you have to research your investor market in the same exact crazy way that you research your customer market. If you're, say, a Web2 enterprise SaaS, you need to know them inside and out. What we also say to founders is that if you're building a great company or a great project, there is dry powder there. You will get funded, but you just need to stand out from the crowd a heck of a lot more now with the way the market is. I've talked to some VCs who said, listen, we're taking our foot off the gas. Valuations should be coming down. They're not yet coming down. But to the founders that have asked us just in the last week, they're like, how is this going to impact us from a fundraising perspective? I'm like, if you've decided how much money you need now to raise to deliver on the milestones you need to deliver on in the next 12 to 18 months, you just got to go out there and go for it. And you can't hold back. Now, we advise them to do things such as stay super lean, go for non-dilutive grants, look for opportunities to get in, well, a number of different types of non-dilutive grants, right? Whether they be from protocols, foundations, perhaps, API credits, things like that. But at the same time, we have to say, listen, where you are in the market, this space is growing so fast and it's so super competitive. You just need to get out there and conduct yourself with a proper raise strategy, and not hold back.
No, that all makes tons of sense. You talked about that you did the Crypto Mondays with the Solana Super Team. Can you talk about
Yes.
kind of the relationships you guys have with kind of different L1s? And yeah, I think Solana Super Team in particular is a very interesting initiative.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And Solana, Nick Dukoff from Solana has been a mentor on our program. Noah Miravaliani there as well. And Alejandro Gutierrez now going in has been great. So it's great to engage with them. And what they recognized in Ireland is that it's kind of a microcosm of the world. There's 7 million people on the island of Ireland. Say there's 7 million people in Massachusetts. So where I'm from originally, and some of the demographic splits and the geographic distribution is quite similar. And so if you know you're to look at everything happening in Ireland. All the big crypto exchanges are here. We've got all the big tech firms are here as well. So there's lots of energy and focus. So they're great to engage with. And then any of the protocols that are going to be important to the founders, we will have a connectivity point with them. So we know the guys at Base well enough, at Avalanche. Um, Solana, like I mentioned, we have had some engagement points in the past with the Ethereum Foundation, with Consensus as well. So generally, if it's important to the founders, and if we have a relationship with the protocol, the L1 already or L2s already, great. If not, we build one. So and we build that bridge to so that we can be helpful to them. And we're going to expect to do probably a bit more of that over the coming months as well. So we lead up to our next Crypto Mondays Ireland event during Dublin Tech Week at the end of May.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. Actually, Albert came back. Albert Pete put his, I think you put it in because I don't think, can you put it in again so that Albert can grab it? Your
Yep,
contact,
yep,
Telegram?
yep,
Thank you for that, Lou. Thank you, Pete.
yep. My pleasure. My
Is
pleasure.
this Telegram or Twitter?
Yep, that's Telegram.
Wonderful. Thank you.
My
I'll reach
pleasure.
out.
I see a question there from Cindy, Lou. Do you want me to,
Yeah.
do you want me to go
Okay.
through that? So
Sure.
it's the general breakdown of startups, US versus non-US, um, in the cohort, Cindy, is that what you meant, or in general?
In general, I saw the geography from your current cohort. I'm just wondering, in the last year or so, what do you see the breakdown? Is there a trend between US versus non-US? So that's my first question, especially related to this administration, right? Friendlier to crypto and Web3.
Yes.
The second question is like, I used to see a lot of payment use cases. Maybe it's replaced by stablecoins now, but what do you see the trends related to payment and reward asset? Last but not least, I just want to say kudos. I really enjoy my time in Miami judging the companies and want to see how to re-engage.
Wonderful. All right. We can definitely do that, Cindy. Thank you. Just get in touch and I can get you reconnected. So what we're seeing geographically is that, yes, you're right. Probably 2021 to 2023, early 2024, we saw folks just leaving the US. But what I have heard is that everyone that went to Dubai is now flocking back to New York City, right? So, that's we obviously anecdotally, but I kind of see some of that happening. In terms of our investment approach that we've taken over the years, we've always kind of been agnostic um, you know, to whether it's US or not, if the criteria is, well, the lack of regulatory clarity in the US is perhaps providing some difficulty up through the end of last year and the beginning of this year. Because it was always about wherever you're going to market and wherever you're selling, you just have to be super conscious of the regulatory frameworks and the regulatory climate wherever you are. So it's always a constant you're going to have to deal with. So we didn't get too concerned about that. What I do like is that seeing since the the regulatory landscape has become a lot more open over the last 6 to 8 months, is that, the upside has now just ratcheted. So take stablecoins, as you mentioned, as an example. We got to 230 billion as an unregulated asset. Where are we going to get to when it's regulated, right? That is very exciting on where we could get to with that. Geographically in general as well, we've invested from Taiwan to Palo Alto. So we just look across the world. And I think that's one of the things that's unique about Techstars, that we look for founders where others perhaps don't, and that we're going to look for them anywhere in the world. And that's why we take applications to open application process, and that we generally do find people where others wouldn't expect to find them. And so we've always taken that approach. In general, with Web3, I do see a return of concentration perhaps to those building in the US, with the regulatory landscape changing and becoming more crypto friendly, like with our friends from, moving back from Dubai. I think that trend will continue. In terms of payment use cases, yes, we're holding some roundtables with some payment processors just to get an understanding of what they think are some of the pressures and problems that stablecoins could solve for them, and integrating with stablecoin frameworks, stablecoin infrastructure. And so I think that is definitely a big opportunity, and that in our cohort, I think it was in year 1, we had someone who was working on a very early days stablecoin with yield, and they were just now getting that to market. We invested super early there. We've had a couple of other stablecoin plays. I believe it's a big spot to invest, and then tokenization of real world assets in a similar vein. My long-term thesis is that we are moving finance on chain. We need to get real world assets more on chain, but we can't just do it as a shiny gimmick. Ooh, hey, my equity is now a token. It needs to be something else that, for example, can you use tokenized money market funds as collateral, right? And because it's tokenization, it increases the velocity of that collateral and makes things, and allows margin trading to restart in the drop of a 5-minute period rather than waiting for an overnight period for collateral to move. So I think there's some massive opportunities there, but always look for, is there something else here that the tokenization of this asset will enable you to do that you couldn't do if it wasn't tokenized?
Well,
Cool.
thank you for that. Yeah, definitely follow up to discuss more. In particular, working with the client in Asia and being acquired by a UAE company. So want to see if any of your portfolio companies actually have capability that we need for some of these use cases.
Yep,
okay.
Absolutely. We can talk about that, Cindy. Thank you. Thank you. Please get in touch.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cindy. So we're almost at the top of the hour. One quick last question on the mentor side of things. I think I've always had the sense, and you talked about it a lot, that it's really a differentiator, the mentor program that you guys have. You've been around for so long. The mentor bench is so deep. Is there anything that you guys, what do you guys do to grow that mentor program? Have it be so awesome? And is there any compensation for the mentors, or is this just something they do to give back to the community?
Yeah, it's give back. The Techstars hashtag is give first, right? Is that you give first with the expectation that it will come back to you in some way, shape, or form. You don't know how, when, or you'd never measure what it would be. Every mentors get involved because they're just innately curious about new technology and things that are happening, and they want to learn and perhaps get involved in that company, but deliver some value on their deep skill sets they have. They perhaps are taking an early look because they want to invest, or they, their thing that they do is they just help founders, and that's all that they do, and they just love doing that. We bring in founders who have built Web3 companies before and projects. We bring in fundraisers who fundraise in Web3. We bring in those who have sold and built communities and built user bases and partnerships in Web3 as mentors.
Yeah, that sounds, I'm sure, invaluable to the cohort members. So thanks again, for taking the time. I thought it was an awesome session. Thanks to everybody who came, and happy Crypto Mondays, everyone.
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you.